morning, everyone. My name is Patrick White, and I've been invited to host this roundtable to talk about the water situation, the drinking water situation in Housatonic. And I would like to start off by going around the table and talking and getting an introduction from everyone and a little bit on you. So let's start with you, Sara.
My name is Sara Parker. I'm the chair of the Housatonic Improvement Committee.
And what does the Housatonic Improvement Committee do?
We are a town committee focused explicitly on the village of Housatonic, and our remit is really trying to bring vibrancy to the village and anywhere from social fabric to economic development to issues facing the community like water.
And what's your nickname?
High C.
High C, but there's no big picture that comes through like, the wall or anything like that. No.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're working on it.
All right. This is Donna Jacobs. Donna.
Hi.
Donna's the founder of this filter initiative.
That is
Tell us
true.
a little bit about that.
That's true.
And anything else you
Yeah, I am an affected household as a Housatonic Waterworks ratepayer and had pretty terrible summers through 22, 23, and 24. 90 days of coffee-colored water in 2024. And in order to preserve my sanity and my property and maybe wash a head of lettuce and have friends for dinner, I decided to install a whole house filter. And having done that, it occurred to me, because the result was priceless and the water was clean, I thought, if I can have clean water, why can't everyone have clean water now? I was lucky. I had the resources. I could install the system, and I knew a lot of my neighbors could not. So I founded the Housatonic Filter Initiative to bypass the struggles we've had with the Department of Environmental Protection, the Department of Public Utilities, and the utility, and just go around that, run an outside run, and go straight to the households and filter everyone's home individually so everyone can have clean water now.
That's fantastic. Now, and you're sitting next to McCaela Donovan, and you and I served on the Stockbridge Affordable Housing Trust together, McCaela. So we go way back.
We did.
Tell us a little bit about
why I'm here.
Yeah, why you're here, and and what you and how and the ways that you're going to help.
Yeah. So I'm McCaela Donovan. I'm the Associate Director of the Nonprofit Center of the Berkshires. We are the fiscal sponsor for this. So the Nonprofit Center, it's sort of like if the 1,200 nonprofits in Berkshire County are the safety net for Berkshire County, we're the safety net for those 1,200 nonprofits. And so we do a multitude of things. We do a giving guide publication. We have an award show. We do consulting. We do convenings. We do a lot of different things, advocacy. But one branch of what we do is fiscal sponsorship. And
explain what that is.
So really what that is like if a very small, young, hoping to be nonprofit needs support and needs a way for, needs help with infrastructure, connections, and a way to take donations to get started, they can actually apply to be under our umbrella, and we will shepherd them through that process. And that happened to Latinas 413. They were with us for 3 years before they became a 501c3. With something like this, we also do sort of one-off projects. So we were the fiscal sponsor for the Du Bois sculpture, for the Gold Star Monument in Lenox. And so the Housatonic Filter Initiative came to us, applied, and basically we're here to help them take donations that are tax deductible and manage those donations and provide support and contacts as best we can so that this becomes a success.
And just to stay on that for a moment, because it's so important, the process then of accepting a donation, would that be written to the initiative? Would a check be written, or an online donation go to the initiative? Would it go to NPC? What's the actual process of accepting that donation?
It is a little tricky because sometimes people will write the check to the organization, which they should, but in the memo line, it helps to put the Nonprofit Center of the Berkshires. Okay. But either way, usually the banks, we work with the banks enough, they've done this with us enough that they know what this process is for us, so we will find a way to make sure it gets to us, and so it gets to the initiative that it needs to get to.
And Art, tell us about Art.
Well, let's see, I got into this about 2 years ago, I think. There was a town meeting, and someone was advocating, that we spend $26 million to buy Housatonic Waterworks and fix all of the problems.
And you're the co-chair with Donna, right?
Yes. So I looked at that and I thought, boy, that's an awful lot of money. I wonder if there isn't a different way to go about this.
Yeah.
And I realized that if you went house to house, you could probably do it for less than $1 million instead of $26 million and get clean water to people quickly instead of waiting, for the courts to grind or everything else to happen. And so I met Donna recently. It was really only about 3-4 months ago. And we really had a similar approach to this. And we decided to get together, and we got a company and went down to the town of Great Barrington and did a doing business as Housatonic Filter Initiative. And now we're starting to really set up a mechanism so that we can raise funds to...
and it's what's funny about that is that when I was I was an intervener on the rate case for Housatonic Waterworks, and we actually ran the numbers with our lawyers and with my town administrator in Stockbridge on if we would just replace everybody with getting a well. Your ways was much better, much cheaper. So it's like I think great minds think alike, but greater minds around the table here. That's all I'll say. And finally, we got Steve. Steve, tell us about Steve.
Steve is a lawyer.
Steve Cohen.
And Donna and Art asked me to come over and give some suggestions. Obviously, the crucial element is 1, clean water now. 2, make sure we can afford clean water there in the future. And also to get damages. Donna just described 3 months of washing in the Green River or whatever. So that's why I'm here.
Yep. All right, and my name is Patrick White. I served for 5 years on the Stockbridge Select Board, where for some of those years I was the chair. I volunteered to be Stockbridge's named intervener on the Housatonic Waterworks rate case, and there's some aspects of that we're actually going to talk about a little bit later in the show. And I serve as the Chief Financial Officer for the Southern Berkshire Ambulance and for the Berkshire Waldorf High School. So, the part of the conversation I want to talk about is kind of the boring money part, but it is so important on some of these issues. So, I think we should just, we're in a moment we're going to go to the video and to sort of frame the discussion. But I just want to start off by saying water is a human right, all right? In third world countries, the first thing that the infrastructures and the infrastructure folks at the World Bank and these other places do is they put in clean water systems. It is shocking to me in this day and age that for decades we've had these kind of problems in Massachusetts of all places, where in this tiny hamlet of Housatonic and some neighboring sections of Stockbridge and West Stockbridge, where folks have struggled to not only have potable water, but water that is even clear. In my time, as an intervener, I went down a little bit of the rabbit hole of what manganese can do to young children and some of these other issues. And it's sort of shocking that when you look at the ties between too much manganese and ADHD and other kind of developmental impacts, this is a problem that we have to solve. And I am so impressed with the work that you guys are doing to sort of do an end run around the BS, frankly, that we've seen from government entities up and down the scale, but also east and west, I guess, and sort of take matter in your own hands and provide a real solution that'll work for people today. So I'll get off my soapbox now and simply let's run the tape and frame this conversation. We'll come back in about 8 minutes to a conversation around the table.
Hi.
You're from the neighborhood here. Is this your house?
This is my house on Pleasant Street. Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about your water situation?
Sure. I've only been here a little while, but I've had 2 very, very terrible bouts of discoloration. I came back after like a weekend away, and my bathtub was like Coca-Cola color. It was like coffee brown for several days. That was recent in maybe September, October. And I just don't trust the water. I've had it tested. There's other stuff in it that's super dangerous to drink, and like expose your skin to even. So I've been trying to figure out what works best for this particular house, which I don't feel like I should have to, because the water should be clean. It's an additional expense, and like a mental load every single day. I have to remember to drink only from my reverse osmosis point of service kitchen tap. For cooking pasta, for everything, for brushing my teeth. I have to bring my cup of water from the kitchen to my bathroom. So that's the only filtration system I have right now. Because my house is on a slab and the front over here has a small crawl space, but it's about this big, like 2.5, 3 feet, maybe at the most, high. So to get in there, just to even turn the main faucet on and off, like the main water line on and off, is extremely difficult, let alone to try and install something. I had someone come in and evaluate, and they were like, yeah, no, like, we can't get in that space, so we can't install it for you, even if I were to purchase it on my own.
Even a low-profile filtration system?
As far as they could say, it was one opinion. They said it wasn't enough space.
Okay.
Like vertically to put it in, to have the load for the whole house, right? Yeah.
So you might be looking at an exterior installation.
Potentially an exterior installation would be great. There's potential spaces for that. I just don't have the money to rewire all of the piping and build an external installation.
It is a more costly installation than the average $2,000 installation of the full basement, but that's what Housatonic Filter Initiative is for. Yeah, is supplementing the cost for everyone.
Sure. Or another option would be to have somebody come in and look and see if they can figure out a system in here, a second opinion, third opinion, and potentially add insulation, because this particular area is cold. It's too cold for a filtration system there. It would freeze, so.
Well,
yeah.
We want to get it done before the warm weather, don't we?
That'd be great.
So right now it looks okay, huh?
This is the level of toxins that it's filtering, and it's actually quite high today. It's usually around 9. Today it's at 12. So it's actually working harder than it usually does. For the technician, so I did it myself. There was an existing small filter line, so it was very simple to do.
Eric, can you tell us something about the water here at your house?
Yeah, so I moved in 2020, and previously I was just living right down around the block, and never really had any water issues besides when it was during the flushing season. And then when I moved here, pretty much I noticed pretty immediately that my water was always a different shade of brown or yellow or tea colored, you know. So it pretty much started in, I would say, April or May, and went all the way through October. The first year I was here also, we had multiple main breaks right out in front of the house. You can see the scarring on the pavement. It was within 6 months, the main water line broke 2 to 3 times right out in front of my house. And they basically put just big Band-Aids or patches over instead of replacing the whole line. So with all that, you know, it was probably year 2 or 3, I ended up switching, and I was doing some research, and some other neighbors turned me on to a whole house filter, which is 3 canisters that one takes out all the pool smell, the chlorine. There's an awful lot of chlorine and stuff in our water here. And then also the last one is a manganese filter, and what I found is it's helped extremely with discoloration of my water. So in Housatonic, we also had an issue with a lot of high HAA5, I believe is the terms we're looking for here. And that, you know, you don't know when that's in the water because you can't see it or smell it. But this filter was able to take all the discoloration and the public pool smell out of it. And it's been extremely helpful. Yeah. So I guess with that filter, so far I've been changing my filters about once or twice a year, depending on what I've been seeing from other people as far as how bad the flushing season was. Like this last year, people, after the flushing happened this October, a lot of people that never had issues were calling me and telling me that their water was awful for a few days. And I went down and I would change my filters then. Being a single person in the house, I don't use the minimums every month. I use about 1,000 gallons of water every month. And the manufacturer's report says that these filters can handle up to 100,000 gallons of water, I think, in a normal situation. But this last October, I took my filter out, and it was muddy. So.
Is it very expensive replacing the filters?
If I'm not mistaken, all 3 filters, you can get a replacement set up for around $150, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Would you say it's worth it?
It has been a game changer as far as showering, baths, laundry, and just everyday worry of what you're going to see coming out of your sink.
Yeah, so this is the one, it's all dried out now, so it's a little browner, but this is the one that I changed out at the end of October. So as you can see, that this was all white when it started. So this was in, and this one was in there for only about 5 months from the springtime is when I changed it. This one here, this is one of the filters. It's all plastic, but there's some sort of thing. It forces the water through the top and out of the bottom. These little blue capsules come off. We take the old one out. We slide this one back in and then twist it shut. So, and then this is the other one. So these are 3 ones. This one you can see has a wire mesh on it, a different set of filters, and this is this is the last one in series, if I remember correctly how they go in and out. But like I said, it's been an amazing upgrade.
Oh, that's fantastic. Nice job, guys. All right. I'd like to start off just talking a little bit about the solution. So, walk us through. Yeah, but before we do, one of the concerns that we had when we were going through the rate case a couple of years ago was it's uncertain whether this one manganese improvement would improve it. I thought it was interesting for Eric to say that he was living 3 doors down and not having many problems, and then 3 doors later he's having problems all the time. That tells me it's not necessarily a problem that is being initiated at the source. It might be a problem within the infrastructure, which is massively more money to fix as a problem. So it seems like what we have is compounding of problems where there's been some difficulty in identifying those. And that's one of the geniuses of your solution, right? Because you've got a situation where no matter where the problem is coming from, right before it comes out of the tap, you guys are filtering it. And so you're taking all that out, whether it's in the pipes or it's from the source or whatever else the problem might be.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So talk about, we just saw sort of a sample of it. That's basically a system you install that goes where the water comes into the house. Is that correct?
Yes. In my situation, I had to replace the service line, which is from the main water line in the street, and the pipe that leads to my home, and which residents are responsible for. Right. The household is responsible for that connection. My connection was 100 years, well, maybe not quite 100 years old. The house is 100 years old, but the connection itself likely contained lead, and it was galvanized iron. It was pretty corroded, and you couldn't turn it on or off to install the filter. So for about $5,800, I replaced the service line. And then I was ready to install the 3-stage filter, which was about $500, and the plumber did the installation for me for another maybe $1,100, and I can't add all that up, but at one point I added it up to about almost $7,400. Now I got my zeros mixed up.
Now, that basically replacing the line into your house, and then you put this filter in for $7,400. What kind of change did you see in water quality in the aftermath of that investment?
It was a completely different animal. I had clear water. I would measure. I have a little system for measuring dissolved solids and other chemicals, and it was coming through very low, and I have a kind of a Brita countertop filter. If I want to go that far, I can filter it out further and end up with 0 dissolved solids per million in my water, and it tastes pretty good. The interesting thing about replacing the service line is that because it is so costly, it is an impediment to people putting whole house filters in their homes. The water utility has done a survey of lead in the service lines, and most of the service lines are unknown. They were unable to establish whether they have lead in them or not. Fortunately, there is a program through the state called Get the Lead Out, and homeowners can get some state funding through the town. The town has to apply for these funds and then administer the distribution of those funds to homeowners to get the lead out, get new service lines installed. And that's the next program that I hope that we can address, because it won't just be the filter. It might be the service line.
But that's a precursor, right? You have to get the line upgraded if there's no like tap on it or whatever.
Right.
You know, so that is a sort of an important part of this component.
Yes.
Yeah, if somebody has a line that is usable, then this system can go in for, what's the budget for just a filtration system? $1,500, $2,000?
It's
that range?
Exactly. $1,500 to $2,000 per home.
And that includes both the installation and the system itself?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But if you need the line, then in your case it was nearly 4 times that.
Yes.
Now, has there been any outreach to local banks like both Lee Bank and Greylock, in my experience, in my other jobs, are fantastic, kind of community-oriented banks? Is there a package that if people needed to, that perhaps they could go and say, look at my total cost for the line, and this is $8 or $10,000? Is there a short-term loan, 3 to 5 year loan, anything that folks have talked about?
That's a great question. I don't think anyone has tried that.
Okay.
To see
I
if
got
they
some
can.
contacts there.
Okay.
He knows some people.
Let's talk. Yeah, that's a great question. We haven't pursued it. We did pursue a grant with Lee Bank. It was really a deadline, and we were kind of not quite ready for grant writing.
They're in the business of making loans, and it's much better than people putting it on their credit card, obviously. Where they might be paying 25%. If you can do like a nice little home improvement kind of thing. And
well, our local banks are so supportive.
They're so great.
They're so supportive.
Yeah,
we might
that.
That might be something interesting to talk about, because they really are in the community. They really are, and many of them live in the community, and right in dealing with the issues that we're talking about today. So I think that might be a great avenue for a next step in the process.
And so there's also, the town has also applied for a grant. That wasn't a DPU grant. That was
a grant through the Clean Water Act, administered through the state, and it was granted to Great Barrington in 2024, $250,000, and those monies were not spent. At first, they were decided to allocate the $250,000 at $300 per household, hoping to cover 800 households.
Right.
But I think residents were not impressed with the $300 reimbursement. They would get their receipts together to submit them for the laundry, for the bottled water they'd have to purchase, but only I think they only spent about $40,000. Don't quote me, but there has been
They may.
Or send in your comments. But there was in the fall $168,000 left from the $250,000. So that the cap was raised per household to $1,500. And this is a very, very important point. We're here today because we want information to be sent out to the community so that people who are living in an affected household will go onto the Great Barrington website and check and learn about the Great Barrington Relief Fund and apply for reimbursement for their water expenses, including whole house filtration. You can get up to $1,500, and that covers a whole house filtration.
So you asked me something about numbers. I'm pretty good at it. My toilet at home would have a slow kind of where the water ran for a year because there was a 30-cent little gizmo that I had to put it in to replace it. So my point I'm making is a lot of us don't have the skills to even know, when you talk about the need to replace the line, is there some evaluation that of whether people are kind of house ready? Is it, or, because it sounds great to go to the town for $1,500 on a up to $2,000 expense, where 3/4 might be covered. Is there some evaluation they can get about whether the other components, like the service line coming in, is sort of filtration ready, or whether they might need to go to a bank for the rest of that?
Okay, we have one particular plumber who's been a great help to. If it's okay, I'll say Don Brazy, who is a resident of Housatonic, has responded to a lot of calls from people to install the filtration. He's able to get filters for people. He's able to assess the site and advise people. I think we heard Julie talking about the advice she got, that she could not have a whole house filter put in her basement because there's not enough space. But Don has been a godsend to me, because I thought I was going to have to do the site evaluations, but he has been doing them and advising homeowners about their readiness for installation. Homeowners can also contact Housatonic Filter Initiative at info@hfi.org and send us questions in an email, and we are glad to. Part of our job is to inform the community.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that's on tip line. info@HFI
H20.org. Like H2O is a zero, not a small O.
Okay, so we're definitely going to want that in the tip line, to our friends at CTSB.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about, though. So Don or somebody like that can evaluate and say, yeah, you're ready. How physically big is this filtration gizmo?
We have some video on that. We saw Eric's, and I think it's probably maybe 36
by how
by
tall?
maybe 40 something.
So does this woman who can't fit it in her basement, does she live in a hobbit house? I mean, I don't quite understand.
No, it's a
She was saying the crawl space.
Oh, it's a crawl space.
It's a crawl space and a slab, and it's only 4 feet.
Okay.
And you need room to pull those filters
That's right,
off
to take them off.
and change,
that
exactly.
makes sense.
There are low-profile filters that we've researched, but even those might be too large for her space, and others. Some people in Housatonic live on, their homes are built on slab foundations, and they're going to require exterior installations, which means building an attachment to the house, insulating it, and piping it in through.
And that, I think, is the biggest challenge, is we don't live in California where it's, pretty reasonable most of the time. I mean, I think the winter can really do a number, and so then you're getting into the insulation costs, you're getting into the contractor costs, and it becomes
that's a bank partnership.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a more complicated process once you start adding things to your home.
Right.
Yeah.
So Sara, tell me, as we talk about Housatonic improvement, I think I think it was Keynes who said, in the long run we're all dead, and boy, it seems like we've waited in for the long run for some of these improvements.
Yeah.
When you guys are faced, look at this has been going on for decades, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
And now you've got a concurrent challenge in the neighborhood, which is, that as beautiful as it is to drive from my town, Stockbridge, to Housatonic along that river, man, that river cleanup of the PCBs is going to impact you down at, Rising Pond?
Yeah, Rising Pond Dam.
Yep. And so you got a lot of impacts on quality of life in Housatonic for such a beautiful place to live.
Yeah, water is a huge issue for our community, from the river to just day-to-day drinking water. I think we have actually asked the community what their number one concern is about living in Housatonic, and it all comes back to the water.
Right.
When you look at the river cleanup, that's obviously something that's a long-term conversation. They're 5 years out from creating a design process, maybe 8 years out from actually breaking ground. Right. But that's trauma on our land.
And that's because they're doing that last, right? They're starting upriver.
Yeah. So that's part of the rest of river process, and they're up in Pittsfield at the moment and working their way down. But that's a physical impact that we're going to see, and people don't want to use the river because they don't think it's clean, right? And they don't feel safe using it. And we're told that you can't go fishing, or you can't you can't eat the fish because the fish aren't clean. You shouldn't use anything on the river. And then there's the brown water coming out of our taps, and I think cognitively it's very hard to live in a place and feel encouraged about the future of it when the day-to-day impacts of it are really a struggle.
And but it would seem like we're where these homes are largely owned by the residents of the homes. It's home ownership more than rental in Housatonic, by and large. Is that would you say that's true?
It's more homeowners than renters.
Yeah. So this kind of whole house filtration system actually could have a positive impact on somebody's property value.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it seems to me like that's the first question I'd ask is, what shade of brown is the water for this house I'm going to spend $500,000 to buy? Right. And it seems like if the answer is, well, it's clear.
Coca-Cola.
Yay.
Yeah. Even that, I just moved into a new house in Housatonic in December that didn't have a whole house filter system. And I'm a renter. And so my first question was, when is the filter system getting installed? And
buy it now before he puts it in, then you can flip
Right.
it.
Well, exactly. And it got installed this week, which is great. Thank God.
Right. But your rent didn't go up $1,000.
No.
Okay, good. Just making sure.
No, but I have friends who come to town, and I'm like, hey, by the way, just like, if you see something with the water, like, let me know. There's ways to kind of move around it. And I have friends coming in from Colorado who also have their own water issues, and they were like, yeah, we should have asked this before. Can we shower here? And I was like, yeah, no, you can shower here. That's fine. That's fine. Exactly. But those are the questions who people don't coming into our community don't understand.
Right. There's a woodcut. Sort of like those, from the 19th century, I saw, and a friend named Carl Sprague. He's like kind of the Sprague family, and and he lives in Stockbridge, and he has it's a woodcut that is up in his bathroom, speaking of water, and it is a picture of folks, farming and the cows grazing in the Housatonic River, and I just kind of think that this was how things worked for millennia here, and how beautiful these resources are that have really kind of been I mean, it's just sad, and I think that I think 10 years out, hopefully the river is at least improved and is usable again. Long Pond, it's Long Pond, isn't it? There's a water source for Housatonic. So Steve, tell me a little bit about kind of without giving free advice to the 700 or 800 users. It seems crazy to me that you've got a water system with these sort of problems in this day and age. Do people have any recourse?
I have just broken a promise to myself because Donna just explained something to me that I didn't know. There's an issue, there apparently may be an issue about where pollution is between the line and the other, but you have a way to determine that with a plumber. That's number one. Also, it's a given that the water company is getting money to filter manganese. So there's a general rule, corporations don't spend money unless they need it. My discussions with them, with them being the filtration group, is that you want clean water now. That's putting in immediately some type of filtration system. Number two, you want it in the future. So you can realize what the cost is because you have the ability to determine that. You have the given that the manganese is something they're trying to get rid of. My thoughts were, if I buy an air conditioner and it blows hot air, or it doesn't blow at all, but occasionally you get cold air, what would you do? You return it to Walmart. Yeah. You have been paying, all the individuals in Housatonic have been paying for, well, the statute of limitations for small claims action is 6 years. So you've been paying X amount of dollars a year. And you're not getting what you pay for. You're not getting potable, clear water. Small claims court is a $7,000 maximum jurisdiction. It requires probably at least a half an hour to walk down to Great Barrington, talk to the clerk magistrate, and sue them. You want your money back, and you want the money for a cure because the manganese filtration system has been delayed. It's probably going to be under $7,000. Now you have 500, 200, 300 people going out of small claims court and filing. Right. One way or the other, you're going to have, and by the way, you don't have to pay a lawyer. They do. I don't see why that type of pressure is not put, not just pressure, but also to get the funds to pay for the filtration system and to pay for what you paid for and haven't gotten for 6 years. Now, again, what is the old axiom? To a carpenter, every problem is a nail. To a litigator, every problem is in the court. But this seems so simple to do.
Yeah.
You're talking about going down. You get the, and it's mailed. I think we may have to pay for the service. 6 months later, you stand up before a clerk magistrate, who, by the way, probably may even live in Housatonic, and say, "Here are my bills, and these are photographs of my horrible water." And you say people have taken that.
Right.
And in the interim, since you don't have the manganese filter, I want the filtration system. It just seemed to me, now, I'm not particularly familiar with the details of the acts in Massachusetts. I know that sometimes there's a 60-day notice on certain litigation, but that's not a problem.
Steve, do you have any test cases on?
No, you need some people to
do it. Yeah, I think that what
I'd rather have 100 people.
Exactly.
But it would set a, look, the one concern I would have with 100 is for good or ill, until Great Barrington figures out what the relationship is going to be between the town and the company.
Exactly.
You really don't want to bankrupt the company, but it's to set a, send a little, kind of shot across the bow.
You are a smart guy, because that's exactly right. I thought about initially a class action, and I had some.
You want to repeat that, by the way?
You're smart. If you think about that, if you have a class action, and you get a judgment against them for millions for doing this.
That's right.
You may wind up owning that water company, because that's the only asset they have after they go into bankruptcy.
And there's no pierce of the corporate veil there.
Well,
because, that's
another smart guy question. You really should be a lawyer, because the first question is, you do depositions, and I know they've taken a lot out. I know that they also have. You may be able to pierce it or not, but the worry is you wind up with a water company that may have $20 million to $30 million of internal repairs.
Yeah.
The one thing that would be responsive, and it gives the individual ratepayer money to cure it, and it puts pressure, certainly, on the water company.
Yeah.
But, how much longer are you going to drink this? If it was me, I'd be going crazy.
Yeah, and I think what this shows, if I can jump in, is that, and what Steve is saying is, the thing that amazes me about this project, and I think is so important, is it really does feel, we are seeing on a macro level in this country, systems breaking down and being revealed to us that haven't been working for a long time for a lot of people. Right. And it's all coming to light really aggressively right now. And I think what I think is really beautiful about this project is these are neighbors, like from the ground up, saying enough. Enough. Let's do something about this. We can't wait for this bureaucratic system to play itself out. We are going to take steps. We are going to take action, and we're going to go door to door. We're going to trust each other, and we're going to work together, and we're going to make this happen. And I think that that's something that shouldn't be unique, but actually is really what I love about the Berkshires. Is I feel like in the Berkshires, we have these almost like mutual aid systems set up because we actually do know our neighbors. And it's kind of this beautiful thing. And I feel like this is a project that is very clearly showing that is possible. And that's really exciting.
I had one of my residents in Stockbridge in one of the affordable housing complexes on Wednesday morning contacted me, and this is on Facebook, so I'm not telling stories out of school here. She's 3 kids, live with her, the rent was due the next day. She's already in a process because, it had been falling behind on. It was like $650 she needed the next day. The community came together and donated $9,350 to this woman. Wow. Yeah. And I think that's such a great indication of the generosity, plus clothes and somebody, the Housatonic auto company repaired her car for nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, because she was having a hard time getting to work, and with poverty, it's like sort of so many times it's like sort of you got to be able to get to your job, and it was really I totally know what you're talking about.
But these are also things that shouldn't have to happen, and that is what's so frustrating about this.
And I don't think it's a coincidence that traditionally Housatonic was the working class neighborhood, and for the ratepayers in Stockbridge, there's only about 24. I believe there's around 90 in West Stockbridge. They don't even they can't even avail themselves of this state grant because the grant happened to only be for Great Barrington residents technically. So, do you have any advice for for either of you, like, for example, if we developed a relationship with a bank, maybe that's one way for residents, because it's only about 15% of the user base, but that 15% doesn't even have some of the benefits that the Housatonic residents have. And once again, it's some of the poorest parts of our three towns that are basically kind of forgotten. Any advice for how we kind of
Well, I started the Housatonic Filter Initiative believing that the private sector is going to get behind this. In fact, that's why I did it, because friends of mine were saying, I'll get behind that. How much is a filter? Let me give you a check for $500 and let's buy the filter. And that inspiration led me to consider the private sector, introduce that to the
private sector, you mean
private donors.
Donors,
yes.
Because we also could look at the private sector for capital. I mean, for loans.
Okay, no, I'm looking.
I mean, that's good. I'm
looking for charitable donations, basically tax deductible charitable donations, because friends of mine were saying they would like to help. I brought this idea to the select board. They loved the idea and stepped up with the $170,000 Great Barrington Relief Fund to work government and citizens together. And we have been collaborating. Our new town manager, Liz Hartsgrove, you may see a video of her in a little bit, has really jumped on this, raised the cap so that it can cover filters for about 100 households.
Right, out of 800 though. So,
we still have a few.
So it's only a start. And that's where, is there any plan to reapply? If that grant was 2024, these grant-making organizations have money every year. And in fact, I remember I was on the board when that grant was made. That was kind of leftover money in the end of the fiscal year, which for the state is June 30th. They had some money they needed to kind of like grant out, and I remember Smitty and Paul Mark had approached Great Barrington, the state rep and state senator, respectively, and said, do you need some money for this? And that's how that money came in. So I hope that somebody's kind of asking them for more, because as great as it is to help 100 households, it'd be great if you could help the other 580 in Great Barrington, and don't forget the 120 that we have in Stockbridge and West Stockbridge next time.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Donna, that money runs out, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Is that the end of 2026?
It runs out, it has to be used by the end of 2026, or we give it back to the state. I think we're going to use it. Applications are coming in. It will help around 100 households. We're guesstimating about 400 households may come forward wanting to install the filters, because a lot of us have already done it ourselves. Yeah.
Well, and luckily, the fee for this the roundtable is $100,000, so that's a way to pour that in.
Much appreciation to the community and CTSB for inviting us here today and supporting our cause.
But so let's talk a little bit about the money, and one of the concerns I have is when you talk about doing 100 households, it's great, but it cannot reduce the pressure. Not when there's 800. You either got to fund the whole initiative, the whole filtration initiative, or you got to make sure that this is a dual track effort so that the DPU mandated repairs to the system are completed as scheduled. As I said, I was a named intervener on the rate case and I worked with a fantastic DPU attorney named Brian Bertram, and he's a great guy to reach out to. He worked for town council for Stockbridge, which is different than KPI, or KP Law, which is the one that Great Barrington West Stockbridge uses. We use We use a different firm. And but I'll say this. You've got a situation where manganese is fine. I think the manganese plant is relatively short dollars, a couple $1 million total, $1.5 million total. In terms of what the overall assessment of the repairs to the system were, which I heard were numbers like $20 to $30 million.
Yes. Right.
Now, I just want to kind of step you through for a second. In DPU world, Department of Public Utilities world, costs are passed along. Costs that are incurred for the system, that could be, a finance charge when you borrow money to put in the filtration plant. Could be the labor. All those costs are marked up by the company for its profit and then passed along to the ratepayers. Okay? Now, because of that...
Kind of like tariffs.
It's just like tariffs. But you know what? The company has a right to make a profit. It's a private entity, and companies can't survive without a profit. I'm not demonizing companies in general. I am not so far a socialist. Somebody called me a socialist. Not so much in the communist side, right? So I just want to point out that that model has potential for abuse. And I'm just going to walk you through some numbers to explain how that might be, all right? So there's a company that is quasi-public in Massachusetts. It's called Mass Ventures. Has anybody heard of that? All right, so Mass Ventures, a guy named Frank Kenny runs Western Mass, really great guy. He's been doing it forever, all right? What's their job is to buy down interest rates. So you got a project, buy down interest rates.
Buy down. Okay.
So it's quasi-public. So, for example, I told you I work at the ambulance. So, we need 4 ambulances the next 5 or 6 years. Almbulances cost $500,000 a piece. All right. So we'll finance some of it through donations. Same thing, same kind of thing. We're already a 501c3, so we don't need your help. But so same idea. But probably if we went to a local bank, we could get around 8% to finance the balance. So let's say we had to finance $400,000 out of a $500,000 ambulance at 8%. All right. What Frank does, what Mass Ventures does, is they buy down the rate. So maybe we can get a rate that's 5 or 6%. Because that government entity, quasi-government entity, looks at their project and says, is there a public benefit? And buys down the rate. Now,
that's a huge difference.
It's a huge difference. Huge difference. All right, now, ambulance, because the life of an ambulance is only 5 years, the amount of interest you're paying isn't as much as a system upgrade on things like pipes, or you're getting rid of lead pipes, or you're putting a manganese plant in, or you need $30 million in repairs. And this morning, very, very early, because I get up early, I ran some numbers for you just to make an example, all right? So for every $1 million that is borrowed at 8% over 30 years, this is just an example, the interest paid back, okay, is about $1.6 million. The cumulative payments result in about $260,000 over 30 years of profit to the company, all right? Now, if that's borrowed at 5%, the interest paid back is only $900,000 over 30 years. All right? So when you look at I'm not going to walk you through all 3 of these, but I did a $10, $20, and $30 million example. Okay? So at $30 million, if that's really the number that's going to cost you guys to repair your system, all right, the amount paid back over that 30 years is $49 million versus $27 million in interest. Okay, that's $22 million in difference to some Colorado bank who's I don't know what the story is there, but it's $22 million in extra profit that is paid for after the 10% markup to the owner by the ratepayers. All right, and you're talking about a situation where let's say you bought your house and you raise your family, Sara, you look like you and McCaela are the youngest people at the table here, and you live in your house for 30 years. We're talking about a situation where that $700,000, let's just do the simple math, 700 ratepayers, $700,000. That's $1,000 per million per ratepayer. 30 million, that's $30,000 extra dollars over the life of that loan, plus the 10% markup that is paid just because they didn't negotiate the best rate they could rate. So what I focused on when I was an intervener was this one issue. They are mandated to get the best interest rate needed. And they are mandated by the DPU to work with the towns to get that best interest rate. And I'll tell you, from when that was filed almost 2 years ago till now, I was on that board until recently, not once was there outreach.
Pat, I have a question. When Egremont bought from Mercer actually, the water company, and installed a plant for, I think it was a couple $1 million, there was a government entity that gave us that gave us a very good, I mean, I don't remember the rates then, but it was 20-something. I think we got 3.5%. It was very low. Right. Is there still a government ability to lend that money?
Well, I mean, I think that there was a federal, I'll think of the name, but there's a federal-state partnership for investing in water systems and other infrastructure. But, the federal government is kind of a little off its game lately, from what I've read. I don't know if you agree with that.
There's not a pure state lending.
No, there may be, but I'm not an expert at where the sourcing of the funds is. But they have an obligation based on the DPU settlement to explore every source of funds. Option. Now, and I'll tell you this, I saw that there was there's something in the paper that I just happened to read about, about the town sort of endorsing this 8% loan at a December 15 meeting. And some gentle pushback, folks, is the place where you can save these ratepayers money in the long term is going to be the finance cost. Because you're not going to be able to basically negotiate with the guy that makes the new pipes to replace the lead pipes. That company is somewhere in China that manufactures pipes. The infrastructure cost is largely a cost that is out of the reach of us to figure out. But this right here, a difference of $49 million versus $27 million borne by every one of the people around this table who are in that system and those 800 families out there, it is a huge impact on them. And they are obligated to get the best rate forward. And sometimes people don't think about it in terms of it's an extra $20 a month or an extra for that one project for the manganese. Right. Okay, but you start to talk about the kind of repairs this needs, and there's a massive impact on these working class families and others, every family. And I just think, kind of staying on top of the money, if there's a pressure point you can put on folks, it is make them reach their obligation around the best price possible on the financing. And Steve, I'd be happy to work with you, and I've got a lot of expertise on this.
To me, it's much better to get it from the guy who screwed you.
Yeah,
says the lawyer.
Yeah, but
I think you're speaking to our main problem, and that's whether the utility complies with the state mandates.
Yeah, that's right.
And they did not comply with the state mandate to find the low-interest loans which were available through the Massachusetts Low-Interest Loans Program. Right. They went to the banks in Colorado, and they haven't complied with the mandate to install by spring of 2025 the green manganese filtration system.
And yet they got the rate increase in August of 24 or 25 or whatever.
They've got grants from the state for another 200, they've collected hundreds of thousands of dollars, and still we don't see the installation of the filtration system, and we did not see the low interest rate loans that they were awarded.
Right. And to your point, I think I saw that meeting where Liz Harsgrove, the new town manager of Great Barrington, she asked the board, this has been the number one priority for 10 years. How about we just get this done?
What happened to that? There was a low-income loan they didn't take?
For the utility. They're low interest.
That's what I'm saying.
They don't want it. They get a markup on the interest.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But they had a loan profit for them at a certain rate, and they didn't take it?
Right.
That's actionable, I think.
But I think something that is important with what's happening now, because these kinds of things get so complicated and there's so much institutional kind of history and stuff that goes on behind closed doors that so many people who are just living their lives can't process, don't know, don't have time. If you have little kids or something, you're just trying to take a shower and make lunch, And I think what's really important at this point is that this initiative now exists so that people in the community, either who live in Housatonic or who do not live in Housatonic, but we are all neighbors, and this could happen to any of us. And I think it's important that people in Egremont, people in Williamstown, people everywhere know that, we need to come together to help each other. And I just want to correct what I said earlier. I think the easiest thing that people can do if they are writing a check to the Housatonic Filter Initiative is to actually write it out to the Nonprofit Center of the Berkshires with a memo for Housatonic Filter Initiative that we can get those funds right into the hands of the people helping each neighbor get this into their house.
I want to add on to that a little bit, just because I think we have an inclination as individuals, as human beings, to see the collective outrage and things happening in the world and feel really overwhelmed by all the headlines that come our way. And so we feel this sense of apathy, right? I think there's a lot of apathy and collective loneliness in our communities. And something that I think is really powerful about the work that Art and Donna are leading at the Housatonic Filter Initiative is that the direct antidote to apathy is action.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And feeling a sense of belonging and connection and care from your neighbors.
That's right.
And every time I talk to Art and Donna, there's this sense of deep care, right? Like, it's so clear that there's care for the community and care for solving this water issue. But it's also really empowering neighbors with it, like, in both tandem with the rebate in town, but also a direct way to make it happen. They're providing action, right?
Yes.
And providing a sense of empowerment, and also, like, people are being heard, right?
Yeah.
How many people have gone to a public meeting and said, this is an issue, right? Like, we have a problem here. And they stop showing up to meetings because they don't feel like anybody's listening. And so I'm really encouraged by the work that Donna and Art are leading, because it gives a direct
Let's follow that action. Let's follow that action along with the clean water.
Right.
Yeah.
So well said. So well said.
Thank you. Yeah, the other thing that we need to do, though, because our target is really right now about $630,000 is what we need. We've got to go to foundations, and we've got to go to really big donors. And I think it's great for the grassroots movement as well
To partner.
but to partner with some of these foundations.
Yep.
And we made an application to Lee Bank for a grant, and they thought that it was a capital expense, and they said they didn't do capital expenses. I'm not sure that it's a capital expense in terms of buying a computer or something. This is an expense that's going to directly, immediately benefit the public.
All right.
And so we have to get some good foundations to
and I just
work
want
with
to,
us.
there was a little bit of talk of the owners around the table today, and for folks in the community, that's visceral. All right. And I wanted to make a point though for you, which is, the 5% rate that I talked about, where the difference is $49 million versus $27 million in aggregate payments over the 30, if you were going to finance it over 30 years, $22 million. That's at 5%. Municipal governments can bond out at a much lower rate, around 3.5%.
Exactly.
And so you guys got to, I'm saying this in public now, not around the table, get over it. Okay, this question of do the Mercers deserve $2 million or $3 million or whatever, get over it. It's short dollars compared to what you save by having this be a municipal system. Get the deal done fast, get it done right, so that whatever it costs to fix this system, there's a reason why water companies aren't private anymore. It's because these types of systems, water, sewer, highway, roads, we don't have like toll private roads with toll booths, owned privately anymore. That's like something from the Middle Ages. There's a reason why these systems are municipal in most of this country. It's because the investments are so large that only municipal structures should be managing them. And this is an archaic leftover from a period in time when in the early parts of kind of the industrial age, where entrepreneurs were providing water, we're going to pipe it in, and okay, let's get past this, and let's not blow this deal up because you resent paying these guys a little bit of money, because frankly, taking them out is what saves you tens of millions of dollars over the life of these loans.
Well, when you're just looking at the life of the loan, there's the other angle of like the longer we prolong repairs,
the more expensive.
The more
we've seen that with the schools. It's the same thing.
Every single time you take longer to make a repair, it's going to be significantly more expensive.
I'll tell you what, we see it. We were approached in Egremont recently, and other water companies public water companies, I can't remember the name of there were two companies that are private water companies.
Yeah.
And they want our system because of the water, because of Corner Brook. Mm-hmm. So entrepreneurs know you can make a lot of money by doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they need the water and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Should water be a profit-making industry?
Yeah.
It's a basic human need.
That's clean, safe, affordable, accessible.
Right.
Right. Those are the conditions of water as a human right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
As stated by the UN in 2010, the United States government didn't quite see that as a human right because they saw the costs involved in that. Mm-hmm. But the UN did make the statement that it is a human right for clean, accessible, and affordable water.
Well, there's that line from "Oh God," he says, "Why don't you go out and sell shoes?" when the guy's like, and I feel like it was 1973 that under the Nixon administration that you were first able to make a profit on health insurance.
Yes.
And you know what? We've got these things that people, got hundreds of billions of dollars now, in siphoning off the system for help for insurance companies. And this feels a little like that, where, somebody's making a little 10%, tithe or is tithe or tithe? Never gonna.
Tithe.
Tithe. Every time you turn on your faucet and, man, let's just get past that. Sara, you make such good points.
Yeah. What did the DPU? They took the loan that they applied for and they got was high.
8%.
And what did the DPU say about that?
They just had a hearing last week on it.
Approved
they adjourned that, right?
No, it was decided, wasn't it?
I think it was just a hearing.
Okay, right.
That was last week. Yeah.
Right.
I hope that now that I'm no longer an interviewer, I hope that the boards stay on top of this. This is the thing in the worst case scenario where you don't take out the current owners and turn it into a municipal system. This is the thing that blows up the cost for the ratepayers for whatever because they're going to mandate the repairs. Mm-hmm. Even if you all put in filtration systems, they're still going to take out the pipes and figure.
Oh, sure, it's got to be done.
It's got to be done
long term.
And this is going to blow it up.
But also, is there any way? From what I read, the report in 2024 saying, the system's not so bad, and also it breaks. We know in Egremont, it doesn't break now; it breaks over 10, 15 years, all of a sudden, has anybody really evaluated what the costs are going to, or at least what the...
We've had two separate consultations with companies that have estimated about $30 million.
I had heard that, but they did. Okay.
Yeah, the reports are available. You can find them. Yep. Yeah. I would like to just make a point. We talked about raising large amounts of money, going to the foundations, but I also want to invite people who would like to be part of the solution in small ways so they can feel that they are doing something to help, that they are empowered. I set up a GoFundMe account. So it's non-tax deductible donations, but people can send in $20 to a GoFundMe account and feel that they're part of the solution. That was my first attempt at fundraising, was through GoFundMe, and I understand that is one of the systems you use, it's surprisingly. And I went to GoFundMe, and I raised about $1,000.
And if that GoFundMe is initiated by MPC, is it then tax deductible?
Yeah, I mean, even if they're just making a check out to us directly and then putting Housatonic Filter Initiative in the memo, that is tax deductible. Yeah,
no, I know, but I'm saying can you guys help set up the equivalent of like these online donations, the GoFundMes and the?
It's separate. I believe
it's separate. Yeah, it's separate. I think it's a little bit more.
They
complicated, and there was also a lot of hacking and stuff that went on with GoFundMe that we are a little hesitant to go down that path. Yeah. I think it's a little cleaner just to send it.
That's why I use that example of the woman with the rent is like $9,000 in 4 hours. Right. People are quite generous.
So wonderful.
It does make a difference.
And if I were in affordable housing, we talk about the capital stack, which is basically kind of like the Randy Warner term.
Yeah.
Because about all the source of funding, and I think first of all, households with means probably don't need, shouldn't be encouraged to apply for the $1,500. If you have the means,
but
put it in yourself.
But it doesn't mean they couldn't donate the equivalent of that to someone else's.
Well, that's
household.
what I mean. That's what I mean. So so not everybody has the same level of need, and looking at a combination of donations, but also putting in place kind of an affordable 60-month loan, which is $25 or whatever the number is, to put in the line upgrade that you need and the filtration system. I think that's that's a good conversation with the bank. So maybe there's a combination of things where you don't have to wait years to raise $500,000.
And I think important for neighbors to know Sara, to know Donna, to know Art. Like, who are the people in the community I can go to if I'm struggling with something to get answers? And that's really important.
And one last point I'll make, and then I think we need to wrap it up. But I'll go to Sara first, and let me make my point.
I just want to emphasize the power of a donation. I think we've been talking a lot kind of in general, well, not general, but kind of nebulous terms for people. It's really hard to understand what 30 million means in real life. And when we're talking about the power of an average donation, right, whatever that might look like for this initiative, it's thinking about like the mom trying to bathe her kid at the end of the day, and there's brown water coming out of the tap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And what choice does she, like, those are choices that she should never have to make.
That's right. And right there, the important point right there is, as somebody who, raises some money for a number of organizations, it's the power of storytelling.
That's right.
That is the thing that really shakes the tree in terms of donations. Because, frankly, it's not just the water and, the kid kind of, looking like Donald Trump with a little bit of the tan of the leftover residue. It's the fact that manganese is associated with developmental disabilities. And one of the things I think messaging wise, but also actually policy wise, I would really encourage everyone to do is, if there's a little bit of that in the water for adults, it doesn't have the same impact on us as it does for the kids. Prioritize the households with children, because they're the ones whose systems are the most susceptible to some of these chemicals, and are at the most lifetime risk in terms of some of the ADHD is a really hard thing to live with. It's something that if it's avoidable, because the water coming out of the tap is clean.
And we don't know, and when you think about what you talked about earlier, which is like the equity in people's homes, the value of people's homes because of this situation, when we have a new generation start to come in, families already cannot afford and struggle to afford to be here. And so the first places you are going to look are going to be the neighborhoods and areas where it is not as expensive to get a starter home. And if those areas have stuff that's wrong with them, those are where families are going to go because that's what they can afford. And then it's a whole cycle that continues.
Good point.
All right, everybody. Sara, Donna, McCaela, Art, Steve, my name's Patrick. Thank you so much. This was a great session, and anyone out there who wants to reach out to us, you can get all of our numbers through Donna or through me, and just thank you for your time today. This was a really great discussion.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Yep.
Liz, it is wonderful that the town has the Great Barrington Relief Fund for residents, ratepayers for the Housatonic Waterworks. Can you tell us something about that?
Well, the reimbursement program was initiated actually prior to my arrival, and it's funded by a grant through ARPA funds that the town took the initiative to actually apply for funds, $250,000, which they were awarded, and it provides a financial relief to people who have had just challenges with the water sources, whether it be with their clothing and it's staining their clothes, having filtration upgrades, or bottled water, or any other types of water related impacts that have been happening for them. So $250,000 seems like a lot, but when you go across the ratepayers, the number of ratepayers, it can go, it can go either really far or really short. So, but the town has offered this opportunity for ratepayers and the residents of Housatonic to participate, and we're really proud of this program. So
it's a wonderful program. Yeah. Can you tell me or tell us how many people have applied so far?
Yeah, so it varies. So we have over the course of 3 years that this program has. So it started in kind of the end of 2024. So there were a small handful of people that initially applied, and at that time it was around $300 that the town was allocating for each resident. So there could be kind of a fair share across every property owner if they applied. Obviously, not everybody did apply, so the town decided, the select board decided to increase that back in 2025 to $600. So from that increase, there was a fluctuation, an increase, obviously, of more people interested as well as the previous people. So we had roughly, I believe, around 98 people that are households that participated in the full 2025 year that the program was in existence. But since December 1st, when the select board actually increased it yet again to now $1,500, we have now had over 40 people in just 1 month, which has far surpassed any of our metrics that we have accumulated in a year or 2 years that we've been doing this program. So a lot of money is going out, and people are getting the services that they really need to help support them.
What are they asking for the money for? Is it for bottled water? Is it for laundry? Is it for filtration, point of service, whole house? What kinds of requests are you getting?
Yeah, the request that we're getting is varied. It comes anywhere from bottled water, because that is their preference, or it could be filtration or even laundry services. We've had like I said, we've had variations of requests, and which is good because we're able to collect that data. Even if it doesn't qualify, we're understanding kind of some of the impacts that we weren't aware of in the years past. So any type of water tanks or anything that possibly could have been impacted through it, those are expenses that people are identifying, but it is very good information to be able to collect through those conversations, which another valuable asset for this program is initiating those conversations.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And I'm getting the impression then that the quality of the water actually has done damage to people's in-house
I can't say that what it is. I am not, that's not my forte, but I can say that we are doing our job. What the reimbursement program has set out to do, the objectives that was outlined in the application for the state, we are achieving that. We are getting resources to people. We're getting money to them, reimbursing them for the upgrades or for whatever their preference is for water.
How do people find out about the program?
That's a great question. So the program, we have done an extensive outreach or increase the robustness of outreach in the last month. And I actually will, that is something I'm very proud of, that we have, because of that outreach, we have now surpassed that metrics of getting more than 40 people in less than a month new funds to them. So there is a combination of a public-private partnership, of grassroots, of the initiative, filtration initiative program that we work with. And so people are going door to door and asking questions and handing out flyers. We have postcards that were just mailed out to every resident, that now we're getting a flux of calls coming in because they have that information. We have lawn signs that are about to go out onto town property and public ways. We have put in legal ads in newspapers. We have done everything. We're even putting in flyers in parent newsletters from the school. So, and that is going out for the next couple of weeks. So it really is a community effort to get this word out that there is this resource available.
I have a tough question. Since so much is being done to reach the community, and there are 800 approximately households, not all are affected or impacted by the water problem, but what happens when the applicants exceed the available funds? What happens when the money runs out?
So unfortunately, that is when the money with the ARPA funds has run out. This is where the the importance of this grassroots public private partnership comes into play, because the initiative group can actually raise funds and be able to amplify or just broaden their support, the financial support and needs for each household. So they can go out and actually solicit donations and be able to connect these homeowners to additional financial resources that are not available through the ARPA funds, that the town is very restricted in being able to do those kinds of services.
And that initiative you're referring to is the Housatonic Filter Initiative?
The Housatonic Filter Initiative is our public-private partnership, and we are really proud of this, and that is one of the attributes of this collaboration, and why we're being so successful in the last month is that has been a really strong partnership, and we are doing exactly what we promised the community we would do.
What a great collaboration between the citizens and the government. It's really exciting. It's a model, I think, for towns.
I think when local government works well, this is a good example of it.
I agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Donna.